This is the Federal Trade Commission. This is interesting because, we're people that review and we talk about stuff. So this actually affects us a little bit. So this came out last week, August 14th. So 1 week ago today, the Federal Trade Commission announces final rule banning fake reviews and testimonials. But I'm going to go ahead and read out the first little section of this, and then we'll get to the interesting part. So the Federal Trade Commission today announced a new final rule that will combat fake reviews and testimonials by prohibiting the sale of their sale or purchase and allow the agency to seek civil penalties against knowing violators. Fake reviews not only waste people's time and money, but also pollute the marketplace and divert businesses away from honest competitors. The FTC Chair Lena M. Khan. By strengthening the FTC's toolkit to fight deceptive advertising, the final rule will protect Americans from getting cheated, put businesses that unfairly game the system on notice, and promote markets that are fair, honest, and competitive. So I think that this final rule will go into effect 60 days from now. So we got about another almost 2 months from now because it came out a week ago. But the final rule prohibits fake or false consumer reviews, consumer testimonials, and celebrity testimonials. So the final rule addresses reviews and testimonials that misrepresent that they are by someone who does not exist, such as AI-generated fake reviews. So basically think about a new product comes out and it has, you'll see ads for products that have like 5,000, 5-star reviews, but half of them are fake because they made them. So that explicitly prohibits that type of behavior. More interesting to us is going to be buying positive or negative reviews on, say, competition. The final rule prohibits businesses from providing compensation or other incentives conditioned on the writing of consumer reviews expressing a particular sentiment. So they cannot provide any compensation or incentive if they have a particular outcome in mind, either positive or negative. It clarifies that the conditional nature of the offer of compensation or incentive may be expressly or implicitly conveyed. So they don't have to expressly say it. Even if they imply that the review needs to be a certain way, that goes against this rule. Now, if we go down, review suppression, this is also an interesting one. So the final rule prohibits a business from using unfounded or groundless legal threats, physical threats, intimidation, or certain false public accusations to prevent or remove a negative consumer review. The final rule also bars a business from misrepresenting that the reviews on a portion of its website represent all or most of the reviews submitted when the reviews have been suppressed based upon their ratings or negative sentiment. So this is something that I think we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago about how certain companies on their website, they will actually filter out the reviews. So you'll see very few low reviews or low star reviews, let's say, because they have to go through a, what they consider a vetting process, but then they're almost all positive on their website. And it prohibits them from misrepresenting that the reviews on the review portion of their website represent all or most of the reviews. Because if they're filtering out all of the bad ones, they're essentially lying or, in this case, almost defrauding their consumer by telling them that, hey, all of these are positive. Nobody has any negative experiences with them. So I thought that this was a very interesting letter from the FTC that didn't get a lot of play.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how much this is going to affect us in the gun space. I think this is more targeted to Amazon or Amazon retailers that are like, they'll, after you buy something a week later, they'll send you a postcard in the mail like, hey, give us a 5-star review and then you get this free thing, or here's a $10 gift card for giving us a 5-star review, or blah blah blah. I'm pretty sure it's more targeted towards that specifically.
I think definitely that's the bigger target, because that market is so much larger, like Amazon or any of the big online retailers. But it absolutely does affect the firearms world as well, because it's just a trickle-down effect, basically. Even if they're not intending it to hit people like us, it still is, right? Because it's a blanket ruling, basically.
And I mean, honestly, is this going to affect YouTube reviewers? Probably not, because you're getting paid for your time rather than getting paid for a positive review. I see several people, including the Humble Marksman, hi Dave, asking that kind of question. I don't think that it's going to affect the YouTube reviewers at all.
I would say, I mean, it has to be enforced too.
Exactly.
So, like if you think about counterfeiting as a crime, counterfeiting products. So if I make a truckload of fake Rolexes and I sell them on the street, somebody has to file a complaint for them to want to prosecute me. You know what I mean? I've talked to a lot of criminals, unfortunately, over the years, and they say the safest criminal industry to get into is just making fake products, because you can make them for pennies on the dollar, and unless the company is willing to prosecute you, file a complaint and get, the trade commission to actually, go after you, there's no repercussions. So the same thing, if nobody's willing to follow through with it, does it really matter? That's just my position on it. Yeah.
Well, GB Guns has kind of the same thought. He says FTC doesn't go after YouTubers not disclosing that they were sent something. So I wonder if this will ever be enforced. Yeah, that's always the issue. The thing that it does, however, is by having it in writing that this isn't allowed, this could technically empower somebody to actually go after them. Like, let's say they were trying to suppress a specific negative review. We've seen this in other industries as well. Companies have asked, like in the tech space, they've asked individuals to take down YouTube videos that were negative of their product and like threaten to take them off of review lists so that they won't get new products or anything else like that. Now, again, it would have to be enforced, but in theory, this ruling would protect them. Unfortunately, Clayco, he just reported today that Kalashnikov USA, they are actually fully out of business. Now, if you've been following this for a little while, there's been stuff happening for the last year and a half. They were trying to get sold to different people, different investment groups, and apparently that has all but fallen through. So as Clayco says, Kalashnikov USA, as we know it, is fully done. Whatever deals to have an outsider investor purchase this company over the past year have all but fallen apart. Even if something were to happen with this company in the years to come, the best employees there have all moved on. So he's going to have something coming about this, the rise and fall of Kalashnikov USA. But Lemon, you got any ideas or any thoughts about Kalashnikov USA?
They were, in my opinion, the best hope for decent American-made Kalashnikov. They actually had really, really good guns, good core parts, good build processes. I mean, I know AK Quality Enforcement, posted a bunch of stuff on, his page about it, but, again, they had a lot of potential. I think they were really wasted in their marketing. They focused their marketing on being cool and sexy rather than, setting themselves apart from the cheaper brands. So like if I'm brand new to the Kalashnikov world, I see a $700 PSA Gen 2 or a $700 Century BFT 47. And right next to it is a $1,600 Kalashnikov USA that has better core parts and a better barrel. There's nothing really telling me, there's no marketing, there's no information out there telling me why I'm paying twice as much for the KUSA gun. So I think if they just would have focused more on, explaining why you would pay more for that, I think they would have done a lot better. But none said they paid, retired porn actresses and,
Gary was just telling me that. I didn't know that they were doing that. So they were using some porn star for their marketing, like putting her on magazines and stuff like that. Yeah.
Essentially, her name, her porn name, I couldn't think of the word, TBI, was Bonnie Rotten. So she was retired, and she started off with I think it was like Gun Owners of America, GOA, being like a spokesperson.
Wasn't she married to Jesse James? Yeah, and he builds custom 1911s now or something like that.
Yeah, he is what he is. I'm not going to comment. I don't know her. I'm not going to sit here and trash her. I'm just going to say that
it's just bad marketing practices.
Yes, well, it's
wasting money essentially.
Essentially, and Clayco put this best in a live stream he did about 2-3 months ago. The gun industry is a very conservative marketplace, and you hired a former adult film actress. Whatever. I'm not judging. But at the same time, you allowed her just like unfeathered access to social media. So, the conservatives in our midst would go after her, and she would like crack back on Instagram, things like that, like with no filter, nobody holding the reins, and it didn't go well.
Right.
So that was like misstep number one. Misstep number two was just, in my opinion, they were just trying to make it sexy. So, they were selling their guns with tracksuits for free, for Pete's sakes. Like I was looking at buying one of their guns about 3 years ago, one of their 103 offerings, and it included a tracksuit. It's like, I don't want a tracksuit.
That's funny. Yeah.
I don't need a KUSA 2-striped fake Adidas tracksuit. I got legit Russian ones in my attic because I am a Kalashnikov guy. I don't need your fake ones. Instead, give me more magazines.
Right. That kind of seems like a little bit of like cringe-fluencer marketing.
It is.
It'd be like
they did
or something.
Do you remember the mystery gun they did?
Mystery gun?
Yeah. They had a thing. They had a thing for a while where you bought a gun, and you didn't know what it was. It was a mystery box, but it was a
Oh
gun.
yeah, I remember that now. I was like, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. I don't
dumb.
want a mystery gun. I want to know what I'm buying.
Yeah,
You know,
no kidding.
I'm giving you $1,500 to $1,600. Tell me what I'm buying for that money. You know, that's what I want to know. I don't want a mystery box. I don't want a tracksuit. I don't want the autographed picture from a retired film actress. You know, I want to know what I'm buying.
That's a value add right there. Right.
Now, this is an interesting one. I actually sent you a picture of this. This is the picture of the carrier. The guy's holding the carrier, and the ass is all like beat up. That's actually a Zastava M70, I believe.
We pull this one right there. I think that's
That'd be the one. Yeah. So what he's talking about here is there was guys that were putting in ALG triggers and what I call the mousetrap spring. So ALG makes a upgraded spring that is essentially just a mousetrap. You know, I've had my fingers caught in those things, and I still got scars on my knuckles from some of those guys. They're pretty horrific. So what's happened, guys were making this, you know, this change to their gun against manufacturers' recommendations, and they were doing that to their bolts and their bolt carriers. Now, Zastava will really seek you out if you talk about this online. I've heard the stories. You know, the guy that runs Zastava USA, like their marketing, you know, he's a pretty wild Serbian. He will seek you out if you talk about this too much on your YouTube. So I've learned not to mess with Serbians. So I'm not, yeah.
So for the average person who doesn't know what they're looking at, is this the material on the back of the bolt here, like getting pushed?
Mushrooming, yep. Mushrooming.
Yeah.
So the first place a carrier hits on its backwards travel is the tail of the carrier. So the tail there, that's what actually hits the hammer and starts the backward motion to reset the hammer. So when you see mushrooming of the carrier, that's from poor quality of metal or poor heat treating in the carrier. The bolt, same thing. You know, the bolt is getting hit by the hammer, so that's a lot of force being put on the rear of the bolt, right? So if it's not properly heat treated, or if it has inferior metal, it starts mushrooming. So that's always been one of my critiques of the Zastava products. You know, people telling me like, well, they're built like tanks. Look at that. That's not built like a tank. You know, yeah, it has a bolt trunnion. Yeah, it has a 1.5 millimeter receiver as opposed to the standard 1 millimeter receiver you find in most Kalashnikovs. Yes, it has a barrel that's about 20% thicker than a standard AKM barrel. Yeah, those are heavier components. But when I see things like that, that's not built like a tank. That's
right. So that's the actual carrier itself. That's
a commercial grade. Those are commercial grade parts, and you're paying about $1,100 for that gun.
Yeah, it's a step up from PSA in terms of price for sure.
It is, and it's a step up in terms of build quality, but you know, you're still seeing substandard parts. Now that picture, to be fair, was probably like 3-4 years ago. You know, I've heard about this last time was about 2 years ago, and then I'm not saying the problem went away. I just haven't heard about it.
Right.
Then again, you got a pretty stout Serbian shutting people down too. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is it does kind of suck sometimes when you run into an issue and it's been resolved since then. So, you know, we're kind of bringing up old stuff, but I mean, it's still important for people to be aware of issues that could be presented if they're spending, again, their hard-earned money on stuff.